In a world in which academia has increasingly globalized, and there is more and more a push for large-scale comparative international collaborations, Claudia Mellado is one of the great success stories in the field of communication and media studies. She has been able not only to publish profusely from her own work, but also has been able to build and manage very, very efficiently and successfully large-scale international collaborations that have changed the dialogue, in particular in the study of journalism. What is the art of collaboration? About this and many other related topics is this episode of El Café Latinx. What's the experience of being a Latinx scholar in the field of communication and media studies? What are the main challenges and opportunities that come with our identities? These are the issues that we'll talk about in El Café Latinx, where some of the leading voices in the field will share their professional experiences. Hola, my name is Pablo Boczkowski. I teach at Northwestern University, where I hold the Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani Chair in Communication. Together with Mora Matasi, doctoral student at Northwestern and executive producer of this podcast, we invite you to discover the journeys of scholars who are at the cutting edge of creating knowledge about Latinx communication across the Americas. These are our stories. Esas son nuestras historias. Estas son nuestras historias. Welcome everybody to this new episode of El Café Latinx. I have a fabulous speaker with me today, virtually on the screen. I wish we could be sitting across a coffee table, but we are sitting across screens drinking our coffee 10,000 kilometers apart from each other, but nonetheless with great connectivity. So I have a great pleasure of introducing a dear friend of mine, a scholar who I admire a lot, Claudia Mellado, who's professor at Pontificia, Universidad, Católica in Valparaíso, Chile. Claudia got her BA at Universidad de Concepción in her country of Chile, her doctorate in Spain at Universidad Pontificia de Salamanca, and did a postdoctoral training at Indiana University. Claudia is really one of the leading scholars in Latin American studies of journalism and comparative studies of journalism. She's published more than 60 peer-reviewed articles. Just in 2020, 6 articles in some of the top venues in the field in the middle of the worst public health crisis in a century. So imagine what she could do if she and all of us didn't have to deal with COVID. On top of that, she published an edited volume, Beyond Journalistic Norms with Routledge, which is her second edited volume. This second volume came out also in 2020. In addition to her full-time position in Chile, Claudia has held visiting positions all over the world, including in University of Arab Emirates, in Northwestern University in Qatar, in Japan, at Sorbonne in France, NYU, Tsinghua in China, Southern Denmark, Ireland, Amsterdam, you name it, top place in the world, Claudia has been there. Her work has gotten a number of awards. And, in addition to her own research program, she has been extremely successful at building international collaborations that have yielded lots of very interesting findings and publications, not only for her, but for a number of people across the world. So it's truly one of the top players in the field, not only, again, in Latin America, but also in other parts of the world. So welcome to El Café Latinx, Claudia.
Thank you, Pablo. Thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. So tell us, how did it all begin? How was the start of the journey that led you to become an academic?
Well, this is a very nice question. So I think it's a quite long answer, although you have said almost everything about me already, but I will try to think on a good response to that. How could I say? I would like to go to my past to understand how did I get here. I grew up in a family of teachers and professors. So I think I was sort of immersed in this specific environment since day one. I mean, my father was mathematician, a faculty member at a very prestigious university here in Chile. And my mom and her brother and sister were all school teachers. Sometimes I needed to go with her to the school, and other times I needed to go with my father to the university because there was no one that could take care of me. So I was always in the middle of classrooms and students. I mean, it doesn't mean that I wanted to be a professor from the beginning, of course, but I think it's something important to have in mind. But as far as I remember, I never wanted to be a journalist when I was a teenager, actually. I always wanted to be an actress. I just wanted to perform on a stage. But unfortunately, my mom, who just supported me in all my crazy projects, she died when I was finishing high school. And my father, he didn't allow me to pursue that career. I mean, he told me, you could apply to any career, but not to theater, not acting. So I was so mad, so obfuscated that I put on my application list a lot of options that I didn't even bother. And journalism was randomly the first one. And I got in. At first, it was more about, pride. Like, it was something like, I need to do this, finish it to demonstrate that I'm able to do anything. But after 2 or 3 years, I fell in love completely with journalism. And the school where I studied was fantastic. And I'm happy of that because it made things much easier. Well, you said something about this already, but I got my bachelor when I was 21, and I went to work as a journalist in El Korea, which is a very conservative, but a very good school, a very good newspaper in Chile. I enjoy it, all what I learned there. But very soon I realized that I wanted to see the world a bit and find a space in which I could feel free. And I applied for a grant for scholarship to go abroad. At that time, I didn't speak a fluent English at all. So I directly applied to a Spanish program, and I got the grant. And I ended up actually studying 2 PhDs in Spain. One was on the private, and the other was on the public University of Salamanca, which is a beautiful city. It's just an hour from there to Madrid or so. So both programs complemented very well. One was more about journalism and communication. The other was more about sociology and media. And well, I was already writing my dissertation. And in the middle of my fieldwork, I remember when I knew that I was pregnant. So imagine, I mean, alone in a different country with a decent, but still low payment from my grant and a dissertation to write. I mean, it was a lot in my plate. So I was quite happy though. I mean, I never thought I was going to be a mom, and I couldn't say no. I wanted my baby from day one. So I started to find and think in a way to do 2 in 1. So I decided to finish the PhD that was paying my grant, of course, and I had a lot of support, especially from 2 scholars, Maria Luisa Humanes and Juanjo Igartua, who hired me as a research assistant to get more money to sustain everything. They mentored me quite a lot for years, and we are actually still very close. And I'm still working with one of them. So whatever, I finished my PhD on time, which was excellent, and I felt so proud. I think I have never shared this with anyone, I mean, outside my family, but I'll be more than happy to share it. I still remember that I look at the ceiling of the building where I defended my thesis, and with tears in my eyes, I promised that I was not going to do something like that anymore in my life. And I was lying, of course, to myself. I mean, but I was, at that time, I was so sure that I don't want to study anymore. This is too much. It was so crazy, etc., etc. So, and then I came back to Chile and started to work as assistant professor at the University of Concepcion, a truly great institution. And 1 year after, I got married, and then I decided to apply for a Fulbright to do a postdoc in the US, and I got it. So my English was much better, so it was not a problem, and I went to IU, Indiana University, with Dave Weaver, that most of the people know. He was another great mentor, by the way. And and you're going to laugh, Pablo. I don't know if I have tell you this before, but a week before we traveling to Bloomington, I knew I was pregnant again. And I thought, I mean, well, this is, it sounds familiar to me. I mean, let's go for another adventure. I mean, what do I do? I mean, anyways, it brings me a lot of energy, it seems, when I'm pregnant, but it was okay. And I'm very, very grateful of my time in Indiana. I mean, I learned a lot. I did a lot in Indiana, imagine. And I think that there is a before and after in my career, especially because I found exactly the topic I wanted to investigate and develop in my career as a researcher. So, well, I came back to Chile, and a year after I moved, I came to Santiago because I was living in Concepcion at that time. So I moved to University of Santiago, another great uni, as associate professor. I mean, we don't have a formal tenure in Chile, but it's a sort of tenure when you move as associate, from assistant to associate, right? So I worked there for 5-6 years until I got my current position as full professor at the Pontificia Universidad, Católica in Valparaíso. And I a lot of people said to me, why don't you just move abroad? Or I don't know, I have, of course, some offers around, and I maybe at some point, but now I'm very well here. I mean, they have been amazing with me. I mean, I love teaching, and I do it every semester, but I think they understood that research was my life, and they allowed me to spend most of my time on that. Just to finish my idea, because this is maybe something relevant for other people to hear. I mean, the common pattern I have, through the years that I can see from, especially my experience in the first 2 universities I worked for, is that I felt quite alone. I mean, my colleagues were super good, I mean, splendid, but they didn't study the same I was doing. I mean, no one was studying journalism here at the level I was doing 10-15 years ago. It was not even popular. Most of the people were doing, organizational communication or things like that, or some media effects or that type of things. And my colleagues didn't pursue really to have an international career. And well, I was absolutely sure that was a main purpose in my life. I think that I always found it so amazing to have this opportunity to interact with people that from different places and background, people that feel and things very different to me, and work with scholars that have these different experiences. To share that with them is just great. And maybe that's the reason I started to work in international projects, and I started to build the international network I have developed, So I don't know, just to say that during all this time, I have found great mentors in the road that I haven't mentioned, I think. And I would like to especially mention Wolfgang Donsbach, who was a wonderful scholar and is actually was a great inspiration to me and to a lot of people. I mean, he was one of the first that truly believed in my idea of studying the performance of professional roles in actual content, while other people were saying that that was not possible. And he was one of the first members of our current project. And so, you know that he died a couple of years ago. So we still miss him. It was a terrible loss. But here we are. I mean, feeling so grateful of being paid for doing what I love. That's the most fantastic thing, right?
Absolutely. Wow, what a great story, Claudia. Lots of parts that I did not know. So let me go back to your years in Bloomington. You said that you found your topic there, right? How did that happen, and how did you know that that was that topic, at least for a number of years?
Well, I was a journalist from the beginning, right? I worked as a journalist before, but for different reasons that I have just mentioned before, I didn't actually write my dissertation on journalism. That's something that I didn't say before. For different, circumstantial reasons, I did it on organizational communication. It was great because I learned a lot, but that was not my topic. So I did it, I finished it, and then I thought, well, I mean, this is not for me. I need to move quickly, go back to journalism because, I need to run, I don't have time, I need to be successful, blah, blah, blah. I was 27, whatever, a crazy woman, I was just running against time. That's something that I regret. Anyway, I applied thanks to a friend that actually did his PhD in Indiana, Chris Kodrick, which is a faculty member in Colorado. He introduced me with, Dave Weaver that I admired a lot, and other people from that great school. So I went there and then I started to work with Dave. It was not easy at the beginning. He just, analyzed me a lot before, he approved me. I don't know how to say it, but it was a good test. And I think I got his, approval. So we started to work, and then I got, inspired again. Not really about what he was doing exactly, because most of my work later has been a sort of a positive, constructive criticism to that school of thought, but it was the base. And the main, doesn't matter the angle. The thing is that what I was having there, all these experiences, and also to share with so many people that I read only on books, it makes me feel very inspired until today. So that's why it's just, you feel it. I don't know how to explain it. It's not something material. It's just this persistent feeling that you are enjoying very much, and that you don't want to stop. Yeah.
So, and that's the same passion that transpires in the research to this day, right? It's the same passion that transpires in your research even to this day. That it is something that is beyond the instrumental and beyond the intellectual, right? That really motivates you and drives you. So how do you find topics? That is, you started in one particular, with one particular topic in the field. In recent years, you expanded and you moved to, your work on social media, blurring roles, blurring performances. How do you know when you have a great topic at hand, right? How do you know that what happens? Because you get exposed to a lot of ideas, right? You travel a lot, you give a lot of talks, you publish, review, you are editor of or associate editor of journal. how do you pick a topic beyond that one first topic? What has been like a common experience when it comes to finding your research, projects?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was told when I was faculty member, just junior faculty member at the University of Concepcion, no experience at all. One of my father's friend, he was mathematician as well. He was in a very important position at the university. So I needed to ask him a sort of formal permission to apply for my Fulbright. Why I'm telling you this is because he said to me, look, Claudia, you have potential, but you are so dispersed. I mean, you are doing so many things. This is not good for you. You just need to focus on one or two topics. That's it. That's you. Define it. And I did exactly what my tío, I will say, because it was, close to my family, what he said to me. And I'm so grateful that he did it, because it changed the way that I, confront all this. There are so many options, right? Every time different topics, but I just pick something that makes sense to me strategically, also as not only as a one project, as a research plan, something that will never end, so you can expand it. But if I want to move, as you said, from one specific topic to other within that, I think that when it makes sense to me is when I can make good questions. and those questions are relevant to explain not only a specific reality. It's just, you can actually come from different angles, from different perspectives. But I think a lot before expand, what I'm doing. I mean, I have been always related to professional roles and journalistic cultures. And when for example, now, when I decided to even conducting our huge project on traditional media still, but when I decided to expand to social media, it took a lot of time for me to, I wanted to be prepared, because I don't like this, sort of a way to enter to some fields that you are not good on it, or you don't have any idea. So I started, very humble, as people must be, in my opinion, humbly, intellectually humble, trying to be taught by good people, trying to learn from others, until I felt prepared enough to start, and to explore, and then, but step by step. I think what I have in my favor is that I always wanted to learn from the better people. So I don't have this internal concern about, being the best. I don't know. I mean, I just compete with myself. So that's something that if you have it, it makes you happier, because otherwise, I mean, you're screwed in a way. So that's good, because there are so many good people. I mean, so many good people in the field, so you can learn a lot.
Right. That's absolutely true. And then there are not only so many good people in the field, but they work and are from very different parts of the world. So you are a true cosmopolitan, an intellectual cosmopolitan, in at least two senses of the term in your practice. One is that, as you said, I mean, you do a lot of comparative work and you build the infrastructures for comparative research. So that must make you aware and fluent in different cultures, different academic cultures, right? And different practices in different countries. And you've also taught in universities, in the Middle East, in Asia, in Latin America, in Europe, in North America. So I was struck by your comment that, you've had, opportunities to work overseas, but you decided to stay in Chile and develop your career there, at least for now. And so I wonder if through all of this cosmopolitanism, what your views are on the field of communication and media studies in different parts of the world, right? And what are, in your view, the might be the distinctive aspects of the Latin American perspective or experience of the field, and how is that received in other parts of the world?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think I always wanted to, as I said before, to have this opportunity to be connected. So I think it's a skill that I have that, but I'm not very aware of, because I didn't prepare to be a leader of a project. I think it's very natural. I like people. I think it's something that the most important thing is that maybe all the other scholars may think that, well, that's, others are learning a lot, but I'm learning a lot. I mean, I think it's a gift for me. I am learning things that I never thought I was going to learn. I mean, just to be exposed to different cultures. In our project, at least, what we do is, we train in person most of the time. So I need to be really connected. That means that last year, because this year, with COVID, impossible, I traveled 11 times, transatlantic flights to do all the, the training. It was crazy, yes, but it was worth it. I mean, it was incredible. I cannot study a country that I don't have any idea of what is happening there, what's going on there. So, and then I realized that I was learning more than anyone else. So, and that's the part that I enjoyed the most, and also because all our team is incredible. But going back to what you asked me about this, how I see the differences. Well, I think that there is clearly a mainstream, right? And then it's all the rest is just the peripheria. It's just, it's peripheral in a sense. So it's in different terms because for natural reasons, we need to communicate in, a global language, which is English. But even if it sounds very obvious, that's not the language that a lot of people, speak. Let's just think, and not even think in, I don't know, Middle East or Eastern Europe. I'm thinking in Latin America. We have so many great people, so wonderful ideas that no one will, from the outside, will know if these ideas can be translated into English because they don't speak the language. So I think there is, yes, differences in your opportunities, and but also a lot of richness in terms of the different epistemologies that they have, and what it makes more sense to understand the different cultures in our field because they are very unique in so many ways. Yeah.
So, and as a woman from Chile, from the very southern tip of Latin America, what has been your overall, say, or some of the distinctive features of your professional experience in the academic circles? Anything from conferences to the review process. People talk a lot about double standards, etc. Would you say that has applied to you, or that there are particularities of your experience because you are a woman from Chile, or not?
That you mean that's like a sort of a discrimination?
Discrimination or however, I mean, a different way that you are treated differently in international circles, say, than what you are treated in Chile.
Yes. Not now, but yes, a lot before, especially in the first 10 years. Yeah, definitely. I would be alive, I say no. I have suffered discrimination, direct discrimination as a Latina and as a woman. And that's that's there, you know. That is there. It's so terrible to say, but it's still there, very present. So for me, the main thing is how do you feel about it, how you deal with this. And maybe one of the elements that have truly helped me is that I have never feel more, but I never feel less than the others. So my attitude when I have, you know, suffered this, any kind of these discriminations in all what you mentioned, is to ignore it and just move. I mean, you cannot paralyze. I mean, you need to keep moving. I know it's a way of, you know, living. The first, of course, my first experiences were terrible. I was crying several times, but here you need to take a decision. That is what I think. I mean, this is beautiful, and being a scholar could be the best in your life, but this is not any work. This is a 24/7 endeavor, and you are gonna maybe lose some years of your life, and you need to put a lot of your energy, especially if you are not from the center, you know. So I can assure you that to achieve what a mainstream American or European get as a scholar, even if I'm competing at the same level, I need to work the double, the triple. And that's the reality for all Latinos. And I'm not really, and not offense, but I'm not talking about Latinos that have been working in the US or Europe for all their lives, like you. I'm talking especially about the ones who stayed in their countries, you know? And that's something that I have seen a lot. And it's unfair, yes. I mean, I don't have 3 postdocs assistants that can, you know, do all the work for me. I need to do it with my hands. And sometimes you share that with your colleagues and they look at you like, are you crazy? It's impossible. And no, it's not. I mean, you know, people from Latin America are incredibly hardworking. In our project, every time that we are, you know, finishing our fieldwork, all people from Latin America are the first one who finished. So I think it's just, you need to really want that badly, and, you know, and you know, make some efforts. And that's something that it's not going to change from one day to another. And I don't think it's good or bad. It's just, it is what it is.
Okay, but I'm curious, you said that things have changed in the recent years, right? That you have not suffered from this more recently. Why is that? Why do you think that's the case?
Well, I think that is because I don't know, when I started, no one knew anything from me, right? How could I say this? There was no one in the field, you know. I was clearly an unknown person. I'm not saying that now I'm very well known, but at least, you know, I have my space, and I have proof, you know, to the center that I can do a very good work. So I don't know how to respond that, because what I still feel though is that this mainstream, let's call it that in that way, just it's always testing you, you know, testing you, you know, pushing you in a way, and you need to make the double effort always, in any way. But they open the door to you, and it's some very metaphoric way to say that you always will feel different, but that is not necessarily bad. I mean, I am different, of course, and I'm very happy to be a different person. I mean, we cannot be the same, all of us, and that's and I'm not going to change the system by myself, only me. But yes, I have feel that, and I won't die. I mean, I won't lie. I don't feel bad on that. I mean, it's just, you need to get used to it, basically.
Okay, so if somebody, because you've been very, very successful at, you know, building collaborative infrastructures, if somebody wanted to start a research program or career that involves, you know, cross national collaborations, in particular large-scale ones, like the ones you've led, what are the 2, 3 main pieces of advice that you would give that person?
You mean that if they want to start an international project?
Yes. A collaborative project rather than themselves,
Yeah. Yes. Well, first of all, to attend a lot of conferences. And that they need to know first, how this work, who are part of the field, and just get used to that. You're going to be rejected a lot of times, and then you're going to be accepted, and that this is nothing personal, and there are a lot of good people around that are exactly like you, looking for exactly things that you are looking for just from another country, and then trying to pick the more international conferences maybe, or I don't know you, but I always think that you are a more ICA or a more IMCR, a more agency person. In my case, I am clearly more ICA person. That is like this, and we need much more internationalization. Well, that's another topic, but still, you can find a lot of people that can, help you to create some networks, but it's not something that you are going to get from one day to another, not from 1 year to another. You need to be persistent. And it's not that you are looking for people like a, detective. I mean, this is just, it's natural. I mean, I think that you need to, of course, do things. For example, be close to or just to approach people that are interested in this type of topics, but just give it some time and just try to find a way to create these connections. But then you need to be very organized and be aware that that you are going to spend a lot of time in administrative things. It's just it's research administration, but it is a lot. So you need to be aware of that before, not after. If you are able to deal with that, I think this could be the best experience. But if that is gonna just driving you crazy, it's better than you just pick something different, because comparative research is much more challenging than individual work. It just depends on you, but this is, and then you are responsible for the others, although they haven't said that, but it's just you have it in your mind and you think, oh, I cannot let them down, and so it's a quiet it's like your family at the end. So it's a very special journey. If you get love, you will never move from there. But more than specific advices, like technical ones, I think that you can learn all of that. This is very easy. It's more than to know that this is gonna be a long-term relationship with anything, and that it needs a lot of work, maybe more than the other type of work sometimes.
Okay. And so our last question to wrap up is goes back to the field. If you had magical powers and could be granted one wish about how you'd like the field of communication and media studies to change, what would you wish for?
Well, a lot of things, but I think we don't have time to talk for 2 more hours. But if I could think in one specific aspect, well, I will wish that maybe it's going to sound very critical, but it is what it is. I mean, I would like that the discourses on integration and inclusion and opening in our field in relation to minorities were a bit more than discourses. I mean, I would like to see more action from its part. I have been in academia since I was 26. I'm 42. unfortunately. And although there is, of course, progress, you have seen that. The internationalization of the field, and maybe this is related to your previous question, and the actual integration only happen in specific cases, and they tend to be more sort of used as exemplars of it. It's still the exception more than the rule. Going back to discrimination, you can be even positively discriminated because, you are being, let's say, not double standard or anything, that don't just take in wrong, but it's just used because they need you. I have feel that too. It's typical thing with, when the field needs, I say field just to make a connection with associations or journals, etc. So they need to justify that they are inclusive in terms of race or gender, and they invite you to be part of their things, editorial boards or committees, awards, and that's happened to me and to a lot of others, especially if you are women and from a minority. That's a classic thing. And I still remember, for example, when, it was very funny because they were so honest with me that they say yes, just because of that. It was 10 years ago, maybe. So it's just Wolf and Donsbach and Frank Esser coming to me, and they say, Claudia, how are you? ICA, whatever. And do you want to be part of the journalism studies, article award? It was the first year actually that they were going to do that. And I look at them and I said, why are you asking this to me? Just like this, because I'm super smart, an incredible scholar, or because I am a woman, I'm from Latin America. And, the Donsbach, he took the lead and say, well, for the both. And he was so honest with me that he said, okay, that's the correct answer. I agree. Yeah, you have me. And, so that's, yeah, that could happen a lot of time, but at least it was nice that he recognized it in my face. It makes me feel much better. And also, just to finish with this question, I would like to make, maybe if I have these magical powers that you mentioned, I would also like to, something to overcome this language barrier that exists between Latin American scholars and, mainstream research in journalism or communication field in general. It's quite sad, as I said, when you see these differences and how these wonderful ideas just go away because there's no one to understand. So I think it's something that is urgent, but I also feel that we need a sort of how can I say, supra institution, especially when you work internationally, because how can you really take care of these things if you are from Northwestern University, I'm from Pontificia, Universidad, Valparaíso, etc. So, how can we deal with this type of things? Who decides on this? And at the end, those who decide are not the ones that's supposed to decide in order to get this, opening. So, not necessarily. So it's a work in progress. I'm very optimistic, but I am very critic as well. And I hope that my wishes are gonna come true sooner than later.
I hope so too. It's a great indication of your second wish that here we are, two people whose first language is in Spanish, who learned it as an adult. I learned that today that you learned English as an adult. I learned English when I was 26 or 27, I can't remember, to come to this country a couple of years. This country means the US. A couple of years later. It's a language that I very much love, but it's not my language. and it's not yours, but here we are having this conversation in English. If that is not an illustration of the power of a center, periphery, or mainstream and the rest, I don't know what it is. So, Claudia, my friend, thank you so much for a super enlightening conversation. Thank you to our listeners for staying with us. And I invite everybody to tune again next week for the next episode of Café Latinx. Thank you very much. El Café Latinx is a production of the Center for Latinx Digital Media in the Department of Communication Studies at Northwestern University. I am Pablo Boczkowski, your host, and I'm joined by executive producer Mora Matassi.